This is very hard for me because, you know, I might mix this and you might think it's bad and they'd be like, well, everything I learned was pointless. This guy doesn't know how to do anything. So if you want to hit the tracks, just hit play on that. My computer's still awake? Okay. There we go. It's playing. This is from, I don't know, it's Thrive or something. I don't know. I found it online. They had their tracks available for this type of thing. So the one thing is it's a little slow because it's transmitting. But I have my kick channel selected, and it's giving me my preamp information up there. So when he's kicking, right now I won't have the option to gain because it's not going through preamp. This is all digital signal, so I have trim. So I can still sort of set the gain how I want. But generally, like I said, because it's a kick or a drum, I'm aiming for that above 0 because it's that hit is what's hot, but I still want to hear more of the drum. So if I go into a high pass filter, I turn this on. So I want this as high as I can get it without it like affecting the sound, but this is a kick drum, so I want it as far back or even just off is fine. So from there I'll go to, where is my EQ? There's my EQ. I'll go to my EQ. So one problem you run into with kick drums because of their size is tubbiness is the sort of sound because it's tub shaped. So cut that out. It's usually between like 400 and 500, so we can boost this up. Let's make it a bit skinnier. Let's see if we can find that. So there's that sort of like wet cardboard. If we just pull that out, that guy's going nuts on the kick right now. So this is our kick in, so we actually want to hear that beater sound, so we can even accentuate that a little bit. So if we can find it. So you can hear, if I boost that, you can hear the rest of the band in there too. So that's a kick mic, but it's picking up everything. And as you boost stuff, you get more and more noise. So one way, and this is often used on drums, you can get rid of that extra noise, is we can turn on a gate. So the gate, you set a threshold, and when the volume is below that threshold, it mutes the channel basically. And then when it goes above the threshold, it opens up and lets the sound through. So if we turn this on, set a threshold, let's make it really high. We got rid of all that extra noise. And you can adjust, so the attack is how quickly does it open. So with a drum, we want that really fast. The hold is, once it's open, how long does it take to start before it'll start closing? So at 3.6 seconds, we can hear everything again. So we just pull this back. And then you can adjust how long it takes to let go. So if you want to hear more of it like ring out, you can make this longer. So with that off, it's just that would all just be a little bit of noise, and as you add all your channels together, that noise builds and builds and builds and just becomes distractions. Like it just makes it hard to understand stuff. So if we go, let's pull that one out. So we got our kick out. This is going to be so we can hit the subwoofer. So now that beater is really like muffled, but it's because it's on the outside. So it's not important. We have that already. We don't need that information here. So this would be a good example of where we could add a low pass filter. And again, you can find that tubbiness. And then you can add those together. So this is without the out. It's all high-endy stuff. We add this in. Now we're getting that low end with it. If we get rid of that, then it's just all low end. So if we mute that, now we can go to our snare. That's pretty good for that. So again, we'll start with high pass filter. Turn it on. So that's too much. That sounds pretty good. That's the top of the snare drum. Sounds like a drum. We can get into our EQ here. So there's the like him hitting it. There's usually still, so there it's like, now it's a block of wood. That's too much. You can add some low end into. And then, again, a lot of extra noise, so we can, this actually has a drum gate in that it gives you some good settings. So, this is the bottom of the snare drum. This is picking up the snare sounds. But again, so high pass filter, and I already have the drum sound, so I'm looking more just for those snares. My EQ. So if I mute the bottom, so we're getting the drum, but there's not a lot to the high end, and that'll add in, he's got really tight snares, but you can hear even some of the ghost note type stuff in there. Yeah, let's see if we can hear a difference with that. That's polarity flipped. I think it gives you a bit of a fuller sound when you do have the polarity flip because it's not canceling. I'm just going to skip those for now. So this is the overheads with no high pass. You can hear it's literally picking up everything on stage. So we combat that again. Oops, wrong one. There we go. So it's off. High pass filter. Just immediately cleans up that low end. So we bring. Sounds like a drum kit. I have that running to drums group here. Something isn't though. Oh, I know what it is. Shoot. Routing. I didn't turn it off in the mains. Yeah. 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 I have it somewhere else. Yeah. Because again, they're condenser mics on a big stage with a lot of noise. They're just picking up the subwoofers, like it's just everything. So the more I can take out of that, and I'm just using it more, like it is giving me the whole kit it sort of gets it stuck together, and then but it's also there just picks up all the cymbals as well. Yeah. So what I was saying with that one was, so here's just our overhead. I can go to with our PEQ here and make a high shelf. You can hear us pulling those. It's sort of turning down just the cymbals. It's not the greatest way in the world to do it, but it can help with sort of balancing if you have that just one microphone or too much overheads. Okay, so we'll pull that one out. So with the bass, go to our preamp. So it's a little hot for a bass, in my opinion. So we're gonna just, in this case, we'd be gaining down. But I'll use trim here. It's fine if it goes over 0 from time to time, but it doesn't want. You don't want it to live there. It's just too hot of a signal. So this one is, they have 2 inputs for their bass. They have bass and then bass dirty. And so the difference is one's an amp tone. So this is a straight DI. So it's just pure like sine waves basically. And then this one has some, just like there's a little bit of distortion in there to give it, that helps with like some high-end frequency stuff. That is a lot of bass. I'm right next to the subwoofer, so it's pretty aggressive. I'll often, for bass, I often do use high-pass filters, but I'll turn them down to around 40. That's your low E. So the extra frequencies below that are going to be harmonics going down, but that's where the kick drum is. So if we clean that up a bit more, the kick drum will punch through a bit better because it's not fighting the subwoofer for that frequency. So I'll use them, but like very low. If you don't have the ability to adjust them, then I wouldn't use one on a bass. So the one thing I'm finding with this, because of how my system is set up, there's just a little bit, I find a little too much on the subwoofer. You could fix that with EQ. Be better to like get your whole system set up properly, but if you're still finding there's too much like low end, you could just use the EQ just to turn down just the low end. But I also want to hear some of that stuff, so you get some like definition of it. With this one, I want it more for that dirty sound, less for what's coming out of the subwoofer. So I could even just pull this out of the subwoofer and I'll add them together, or I'll just pull some of the bass out. But in this case now, I'll go to EQ and just sort of, so there, it's right there. So now, you have a bit more dirt. And where that helps is you want the low frequencies that fills in the music, but those higher frequencies is them actually playing the notes, and that'll help it cut through in the mix, so you can actually hear the bass being played as opposed to just feeling it. There we go. Oh, I did it again. That's why it was so loud. I forgot to, I did this and then I restarted it without saving. So all the channels are going to groups, but they're also going to the mains. So I have to turn them off in the mains. Otherwise they're doubled up. So if I turn this back on, the bass back on, it'll be quieter now because it was adding together. There's a lot of them. Oop. Almost there. This one has a lot of inputs. I added these ones because it was just kind of interesting to show you later. So now if we go back to mix. That's a bit better. All right, acoustic guitar. Again, set my gain. I don't care about the volume. I'm looking for that signal level. So he's playing pretty hard. He's hitting around that 0 point. He'll go a bit above every now and then. That's fine. So again, high pass filter. I'll turn it on, and then that's too much, and then I'll just roll it back until it sounds like a guitar again. Now I've removed as much extra noise that I don't need without affecting the instrument. Yesterday I was telling you guys I will often use the same sort of frequency thing. Let's on acoustic, because they all sort of have an acoustic resonance in the same general area. Let's see if that works here. So I'm just hitting these octaves because I'm doubling them here. Cut that, cut that, cut that. So I don't know if you can, it just, to me, it's like cutting out some overtones that are, and now it's just a bit of a cleaner signal. The one thing, generally don't want to do too much EQ stuff without the rest of it, because you want to do stuff in the mix, but it is easier to like learn it by doing them one at a time. Okay. Yeah, because they all have the general same size. Like some, like you get bigger ones and you get smaller ones, but like it seems to be I learned this from some other mixer that's been doing it a lot longer than me. He does that like on every guitar, and it's just because like the general shape of them, that's the standing waves that you get inside the body. 315, 630, 1.2. They're all, it's just octaves of each other in that general range. With the electric guitars, we have two of them. So this is a good place to, we can apply some, oh yeah, panning is here. That's where it does have to go up. So we've got one, well, let's send it to the right, send that one, or that to the left, this one to the right. Oh, it's bad spot in the, we'll go to the other one. There we go. So you can see I've stereo spread on them now. So that's just one. That's the other one. So they are playing different things, but when you do this, it sort of gives them some space. And then I can also no, I didn't actually do anything with these, but so again, so that's that 2K on electric guitars I was talking about, sort of rings in your ears. And so when someone says the electric guitar is too loud, it just could be it was too bright. So you can just pull a little bit of that out. It'll sort of warm it up a little bit. You don't want to do too much because then it loses definition, but just do the same with this one. So I'm also mixing this from behind the speakers, so it's not 100% accurate to what I'm hearing. So, I wish we used more B3s. These things are so much fun. Oops, B3. So it's a stereo. They do a left-right on the top of the cabinet and then a mic on the bottom for the lows. And that'll give you the whirly effect because it'll be moving between the left and right speakers. So set. It's an organ. Yeah, sorry. So it has the rotary speaker. So it's a cabinet. The top of it, the speaker is two horns and they spin. And there's actually a knob that can adjust how much it spins. So you get a whirly effect from it. And then there's a subwoofer on the bottom. So that's why it's B3 low and then B3 left right. You have a stereo pair on the top and then a mic on the bottom. So there's the low end. And then we bring in this one. There it goes. So So again, we can just, this one we can pull a lot of the low end out of, because we have the low end here. Keys, way too hot. They recorded everything hot, which is a good way to record because you get the most signal out of it. But they didn't clip, so that's the important part. But so with drums, I was telling you they're very peaky. So like you hit it, so that's why I boost the signal a little bit higher. You don't have to do this with keys, but keys are like super compressed. So the average signal is very close to what the peak signal is. So you can even set keys a little bit lower than 0 because of how the meter is actually reading, because it's reading peak information. So that's generally, if you set everything at 0 and you turn everything to the same level, the keys will be the loudest thing because it's more of a compressed signal, and so the volume of it's going to be a bit higher. You can still set it at 0. That's like a good place to start. But if you start noticing there's too much of it, then you can go just a bit below 0 too. So with keyboards, generally, I'm not going to do much to them because it's not picking up any of the stage, and it's like a pre-built sound. So unless there's some problems with it, in which case it's probably a better idea to get a new keyboard. But generally, they sound pretty good out of the box, unless there's something wrong with your speakers. So, good with that for now. We get into vocals. So this is the one that will have more stuff happening on.
In too deep to turn back.
Can you hear how there's like some, well, one, you can hear the bass. They're still hitting the subwoofer because I don't have a high pass on. But like they're right on the mic, so you're gonna get some more mid-rangey stuff in there. So we'll start with this. Too much. Roll it back.
I'm so glad I met Jesus.
It's a good starting point. Generally voices. I'll sometimes even go all the way up here because I just don't need that information. You have a whole band. But you can roll it back. Usually it's between like 130 and up to like even 200-ish.
I'm so glad I met Jesus.
So
yes, I'm so glad
you can see how just doing high-pass filters everywhere will get you most of the way there. If I just do that on all the channels, I can probably just mix. I haven't even touched compression with anything yet. It's just been high-pass and a little bit of EQ. So with this one, we'll get into some EQ now.
All my darkest days are over. He's redeeming everything. I'm alive with eyes wide open. I've tasted and I've seen.
There's the like
into
muddiness.
To turn back now, how could I not believe?
Sometimes, especially on vocals, I might just make this a bit wider to get, because it's that whole range is sort of a problem. So there's like a mud, and it's already just cleaner and pops out a bit more. You can add some high end too, usually around 2K. We'll add some intelligibility. If you want air, you can add just a lot like that high end stuff.
I'm so glad I met Jesus. Yes, I'm so glad I met Jesus.
They're taking turns singing, so. Can you find a spot where the second vocal is like actually doing something? Oh, here we go. He's doing it now.
He's redeeming everything. I'm alive. Tasted and I've seen. Could I not believe? I'm so glad I met Jesus.
did it again.
I'm so glad I met Jesus.
Which one is, that one. That's the one I missed. There we go. So that's, I don't know, how did that sound? Is it okay? Yeah, and that was just, there's no compression on anything. That was just gain, high-pass filters, a little bit of EQ, and then just mixing for volumes. From there, you can start getting into effects, adding some reverb. That'll help create some space, because when you're in a room, the sound bounces off the walls. So if I took this off and you're standing over there and I yell to you, you're hearing me directly, but you're also hearing it come off the walls as well, and just sort of the noise of the room. And we're used to hearing that. But when you take a microphone and you put it right here, we're close miking. We're removing the room from the equation. So everything sounds really dry. And so you can add in reverb effects to create that sense of space. Yep.
I'm noticing there's no S's in there. Why is that?
They're really good at singing. Yeah, so this is like a touring band thing. So they're pretty good at it. Their voices just don't really pick that up. One thing you can use is there are like effects, de-essers. So if I go here, library, de-esser, mail, call. So on the back here, we can assign this into a channel, so it'll go in line with the channel. And this is basically, it's a compressor that only listens to the frequencies that the s and th come from. And that'll just, it'll pop in and out as they hit those frequencies. Let me see here. What channel? The guy was on input 20. So if I go here, go to the back panel, insert on, oh, they even have it by name. Box 2, hit apply. Do a lot more of that. Is it going to hit anywhere? There. There's that little blink. The lights, this is your reduction meter, so every time he sort of hits an S, it's going to sort of cut it out, but just in that frequency. So you still hear their voice, it just sort of turns down the S's. There was another, it lit up again. I don't know if you were watching. I don't know how fast it's responding up there. There. But yeah, that's the de-esser kicking in, and it's de-essing. It's removing S's.
And when you were boosting your thousands, your 2000 range,
Yeah.
were you doing that different frequencies for the different vocals to get?
I was just trying to make their voices sound the best I could. Yeah. But you can generally give me that 1 to 3K. Yeah, that's really common. That's where that like low mid builds up in vocals. Have you guys, any of you guys used a Yamaha TF console? You ever heard of it? Okay, it's got a lot of automated features built in. I hate mixing on it because it's just not as nice as other ones, but if you don't really know what you're doing, you can basically go, the input is a vocal mic, and I'm using an SM58. And then on the EQ, it's just one knob, and you just turn it, and it just does more or less EQ. And it moves all of the bands at once. And almost all of it just drops out that 4 to 600, and then it'll start boosting the like 1 to 3K a little bit, and some of the high end. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So it's pretty common in vocals to end up just, and that's that bass response as they move up on the mic. It's just sort of builds up in that frequency there. That's what I've noticed anyway. Yeah. I'll get into that. Any other questions on that? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was cutting 2K on like electric guitar because they really ring at that one. There's some rules of thumb. Like I said, like generally you'll end up cutting 3 to 600 on a vocal and boosting around that 1 to 3K. You don't have to, but you'll end up boosting there because that's where our intelligibility sort of lives. So it makes it easier to sort of hear them cut through the mix. But there's no like rules. It's very much like you need to listen and make adjustments to fix what you're hearing. There's you can look it up. There's a chart that'll show you like this frequency is where like tubbiness, this is where honkiness, this is where this is, all the problem sounds that trying to describe sound. But it'll show you generally where they live, and that can help sort of give you an idea of like, oh, this is what I'm hearing, and I want to fix that. I want to cut here. Make sense? The feedback? Whatever echoes in your room the most. Yeah. It's not a set thing. It usually ends up being in the higher ranges, but it's just a feedback loop is caused by the sounds you put out go out, and then they get back into the microphone at the same level or higher, so then they just continue to build and build, and it'll just sort of... one of the things you can do if you have a constant problem of these or lapels feeding back or the lecterns, does anyone have problems with those mics causing feedback? So one thing you can do is ring them out. So I do have one of these. Oops, mix. Check. I didn't make a group for it. But what you can do, I'll just use the main output for this, is you can use the built-in EQ or you can use a GEQ, the graphic EQ. If you have all your like talk mics go into, or have it go through a group, you can use these EQs, but basically what you can do is just keep turning it up until you get feedback. Check. Go. There it is. That was 630. So I can pull that out. So you just keep turning the gain up. Put the mic on the stage. Just turn the gain up. You'll a frequency will start to go, and then you can just sort of pull that frequency out. And then you just go a bit more, then you can pull that frequency out. And what you're doing is just giving yourself more gain before feedback, because that's where it wants to take off. And so you can go through and ring out a microphone. So if you have a problem with like a lectern mic or one of these mics or a lapel, that's a good idea to go through. Just put it where it normally sits, because that's where it's like, because the sound is coming back from the speakers to that position. And you go through and you just keep turning it up and notching out feedback. You can go too far with it, because like this will affect the sound that's coming out of it, but it does help. Yeah, you'll get tinny and stuff, but yeah, you can pull too much out. But if you're constantly having, like, it's not loud enough, but if you go loud enough, you get feedback. This is a good way to just get that little bit extra. I do whenever I set up choir mics, I always ring them out first, because that'll let me turn them up enough. I do for a full band, just because it's just a part of everything, so it's not the greatest way for a piano to sound, because they definitely, if they're open, the sound just is more open, it's a better sound, but it's just a part of the music, it's not the only thing playing, so you can't really tell. And so I find by closing it, you're removing the microphones from the rest of the sound, and you end up with a better source. If it's a solo or something, you can go to like half stick and still have it mic'd. It'll actually sound better, because it gets airier, like just opens up a bit more. Okay, do you want me to cover adding effects quickly? Yeah, okay. So I'll do it, I guess we can do it with their voice here. Let's do just his.
Oh, I can't run from your goodness, bringing everything to life.
Okay, so remember I was talking about with an analog, for a compressor you use an insert channel. It goes out through the compressor and back in. With effects, generally what you use is use bus effects. So you send a bunch of channels to a bus, send that bus out to your effects unit, and then you'd bring it back in on a channel. That's how it worked in the analog world. So I'd assign aux 10 on this thing as my reverb. And then on the back, there's an output for aux 10. So I go out of that into my reverb unit. It does all its reverby stuff. And then it comes back in, and I'll plug it into one of these stereo returns, and that gives me my effects return. The same thing, the way they set it up in the mixer, they did the same thing. So on the SQ on the right, there's the top 4 are my effects. I've got a drum reverb, a band reverb, a vox or vocal reverb, and a vocal delay. So if I press this, it's like pressing an aux, like to send to a monitor. I'm now sending to the reverb unit. So I'll send his there. And then we'll go back here. And if I click on effects, his channel's muted, so it won't do anything. So you can see now the vocal reverb is getting the effect.